I find myself at a point in life in which more people that I meet, each and every person that I meet seems to have a story of being highly disappointed, often to the point they feel as if they wasted their time in relationships or on a job, in a marriage. They often become judgmental and critical of every person that they meet to see if they measure up to being labeled a narcissist. It's almost as if they themselves are walking on eggshells, even though the abuser is gone. Um, I get to speak to you today, Angel, because you're going to shed some light on what you do, and you're able to help people through your YouTube channel and other areas in which you're able to assist people by speaking about narcissism and shedding light on it and what we individually can do to hold on to our sanity and grow. Um, that's as close as I think I'm going to get for an introduction for you, because I really want to get to the stages, the early stages of recognizing this type of abuse and making some sense of it to be able to heal. So do me a favor. Tell me, how can a person recover from dealing with a troublemaker?
That is the question. Everybody who's gone through narcissistic abuse wants to know, not only how do I make the pain of recovery stop, but how do I make sure I never feel this type of pain again?
Right.
And so this you're right, this is what I do. I'm a life coach, and I help people recover from narcissistic abuse. And um, you know, the the way that humans are made, it doesn't actually matter what area of life that we're
Mhm.
dealing with, is that we tend to overcompensate. So if somebody so for example, if we're a child and we have issues with our dad, for example, when we grow up, we're going to look at all men through that lens, right? And try to
Correct.
overcompensate
Yes. Hmm.
for whatever damage or whatever hurts were done to us the by not just a man, but a man who is supposed to be caring for us, providing for us, whatever. And the same is true with narcissistic abuse. The same is true here in this situation where we get so hyper focused on any type of pain or feeling or behavior from another person that may look like or feel like, sound like what the narcissist did to us, that we're very quick to label whatever we're experiencing in that moment as narcissistic abuse, as the other person being a narcissist. And that hypervigilance is one of the kind of cues that you are still in the healing process from narcissistic abuse. When you're a whole person, this is the way that I describe it to my clients, is that when you're a whole person, you don't need to be hyper vigilant because you know that you're whole. Imagine a pie, it's whole. You you will notice straight away if somebody tries to put their finger in there, somebody tries to take a bite out of that pie, you're going to notice right away because it's whole. But if I'm a three quarters full pie, or if I'm a half a pie, or whatever, even if there's a small sliver in my pie missing, it gets harder and harder to see. Did somebody, pick a piece out of there? Did somebody take
Right.
from that? And
Uh-huh.
so this is why the focus, instead of focusing so much on what is going on outside of ourselves, when we focus on healing ourselves, we can kind of give up the need to be overcritical or hyper vigilant about whether somebody is a narcissist or not, because honestly, it won't matter. Toxic people, even healthy people, but who aren't meant for us, we're going to
Mhm.
be able to say, you know what, I'm whole enough in myself. I'm not looking for somebody on the outside of me to complete me, or a job to complete me, or a label or whatever to complete me. I'm whole enough, and I'm able to say no to that thing. I'm able to understand that just because that thing is a good thing or a great thing, it's not necessarily for me. And so there's much more healing that needs to be done than just saying, oh, I'm able to spot a narcissist right away, right? Because it doesn't actually matter if you can spot a narcissist or not,
Hmm.
because you're still focusing so much attention outside of you that you never actually get to analyze what is going to actually help me thrive, not just survive. And so the question of, is everybody a narcissist? First of all, everybody's going to exhibit traits of narcissist. And what makes a narcissist isn't just their behaviors, it's the
Hmm.
motivations behind them. And if you're never whole enough to get to develop a relationship with another person or a group of
Hmm.
people strong enough or long enough to understand why they're doing something, every
Yeah.
behavior can be interpreted through the lens that you view it.
We get to a situation in life, then pretty much if we ourselves don't have a foundation, if we were never, if we were mismanaged as a child and didn't receive caregiving that we needed, we can find ourselves not being that whole pie. And therefore,
Yeah.
it becomes easy for us to be naive to the point that we don't recognize, as you mentioned, that people are taking from us.
Mm.
But if we, based upon what you said, if we center that back around on ourselves to make sure we are whole, and it's going to be easier for us to see people in a better light. Is that going to help if we're a little bit more grounded, regardless of how we were raised? Does it help some if we have a better outlook, um, and we're not so overprotective, maybe, or sensitive? Some make that argument. What do you think?
Well, I think, like anything, it's a balance, right? You can't be ignorant of the fact that there are narcissists out there. And especially for somebody who's gone through the abuse of
Hmm.
at the hand of a narcissist, it would be
Yeah.
impossible for them to
Yes. Yeah.
forget their
Yeah, right.
memories.
Yeah. It's not going
Um,
to get washed away just like that. Right. Right.
mhm. Yeah, but at the same time, I think it's important that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because
Good. Yeah.
the all humans are made for connection, and we will miss out on opportunities that actually allow us to develop deeper as individuals if we
Hmm.
don't take opportunities to connect with others. And that's it's interesting because that's actually one of the goals that the narcissist has when they're in their whenever they seek after a victim. Is number
Hmm.
one is isolation. The only person who benefits from you being isolated is a narcissist or other predators. And so if you continue to think, I'm going to stick to myself and I'm never trusting people
Right.
again,
Exactly.
then you're actually
That's a problem, right?
right.
Or
You're lowering the amount of defenses that you have against
yeah,
such a person actually coming into your inner circle.
it's exactly, honestly, that's, I had to mention that question to you that I just proposed because I just had somebody mention it to me on my IGTV channel, and it was almost like victim blaming when they mentioned it to me, and I wanted to have a similar response that you're having, but I left it alone because I'm not in your field. I just put on shows. But I just wanted to ask you that because your answer is exactly what I thought as well. It's one of those in which a person can't then just isolate themselves, as you just said. They will need to, right, still live their life, even though
Mhm.
there is that measured amount of pain that each person goes through after dealing in a narcissistic abusive relationship. But hey, I'm just talking. You're the expert, so I'm just saying. Somebody mentioned that, and I said, "No, I'm going to ask Angel. I'm going to ask
You
you."
know, the narcissist also tries to make you think that you have two choices all the time. If you actually
Okay.
look back
Hmm.
at your relationship with a narcissist, or maybe you watched somebody else engage in a relationship with a narcissist, you'll often see that the narcissist is very much it's their way or the highway. And
Mhm.
as
Yeah.
victims, we start to think that way. Okay, well, it's either this or that. It's either all the people, including narcissists, or none of the people, right? We start getting this
Now,
very,
is
very
that?
dichotomized.
I have
Mhm.
to ask. Is that even when they're gone? Will that still continue?
Yeah,
Well, the
of
person's
course,
mindset.
because
Okay, I was just wondering.
yeah, the way that you think about things doesn't change just because the narcissist is gone. And furthermore, you when I try to teach people about what a narcissist is actually doing, most of my focus is on recovery, but
Okay.
sometimes it does help people to understand a narcissist. And so if the goal of a narcissist is not to abuse you, the goal of the narcissist is to abuse you so badly that you start to doing it to yourself, whether or not they're around. So you start
Mm,
thinking about them all of the time. You're consumed with your emotional energy thinking about them. You're constantly everything that you do is revolving around them, whether or not they told you to, whether or not they said something specific to you. They've trained you to think that way. And wherever you're thinking, that's where your actions, your behaviors, your patterns of thought, the actual neural connections in your brain are going to go.
mm,
And so this is again one of the things when we think about, I'm either isolating myself from all the people, or I'm gonna have all the people come in, including other narcissists. We have to be able to see that there's a million other options as well. We can heal from what we've gone through. We can start using and implementing wisdom from the experiences that we've
mhm,
had to make better choices. We can actually start to develop um, closer support groups closer support networks that would help us see what we can't see. We need each other. And so it doesn't have to be this, it's either all or nothing kind of outlook, which
mm.
unfortunately, as I said, is very common for people who have been with a narcissist to think that way in terms of everything in life. Well, I either have to do this or I have to do this. And it's
Yeah.
not true. There's a lot of other options.
That's the feel and look of being in a narcissistic relationship to a measured degree. We're pretty much looking at a situation that an individual, I'm going to use me as an example, that I could be in a situation that now I've got a better idea of what I'm really going through. The very look, feel, almost the very taste of what it's like to deal with a narcissist and be in an abusive situation. But if I start to ruminate on it based upon what you're saying, that relationship, and even if that person is gone, then I essentially, like you just highlighted to us, then I'm pretty much abusing myself now, even if that person is gone, because
Mhm,
now I'm ruminating on everything that's happened 20, well, 25/8, not 24/7. I'm
mhm,
literally doing it beyond, I'm not even getting any sleep because I'm
mhm.
focused, hyper focused on what I just went through with that experience, either hoping for a better outcome or for it to just go away. I'm still focusing a lot of energy. I'm ruminating on it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's right. And like I said, that is actually the goal of the narcissist, is to get you to think that way, so that every step of your life, every decision that you make for your life is focused around the narcissist, whether they're there or not. And if you're not conscious of it, you your what you have now come to accept as normal, you don't realize that you're still doing it, and that that's still toxic. What you're referring to is toxic rumination, where you continuously think and go over certain events, or play through certain scenarios 10 steps down the line, and it can cause paralysis of making any type of choice. That type of rumination is actually very toxic for your brain, not just emotionally or like non-consciously. It's actually very physically, and like we can see what happens to your brain when you do toxic rumination, and you're actually destroying proteins in your brain that you need to make healthy connections. So
Mhm.
bad connections are getting stronger, healthier connections are being weakened. And like I said, before you know it, your view of normal is extremely toxic, and you don't even know that you've gotten there.
Even if the normal we had before was normal,
Hmm.
we will end up having a new norm.
Hmm.
Okay, how do we break it? How do we break that, Angel?
Yeah, the first step is to become aware of it. Be start I recommend putting an alarm on your phone 7 or 8 times a day that just kind of asks you, where are you? Because a lot of
Mm,
times people are
mm,
here physically, but mentally
mhm,
they're replaying something in the past, or they're 10 steps ahead in the future. And so number one, pay putting those reminders on your phone can help give you an idea. Where do I spend most of my time? Am
Mm,
I spending most of my time in the present? Am I spending most of my time in the
yeah.
past? Am I spending most of my time in the future? Where am I in this process? And then once you do that, maybe then you can start to have the awareness of, yeah, I replay these conversations,
Yeah.
so often in my mind. And so recognizing it is the first step to breaking it. Once you know that it's there, then you can use those same alarms that you've set 7 or 8 times a day to start reminding yourself of truths that can help ground you and to help start rewrite the narrative that you're telling yourself, and thereby rewire your brain, rebuild the healthy proteins that got destroyed in the
Mm,
toxic chemical bath that had washed them away when you were doing toxic rumination. Neuroplasticity is an amazing thing. And so of course
mhm.
you can
Yeah.
learn how to undo toxic thinking. Just as you learned how to do it, you can also undo it. And not just undo it, you can learn how to think healthy too.
Undoing it is something that's essential. Not sweeping it under the rug, not moving in
Mhm.
such a way that you can drink it away, eat it away, exercise it away. There are many things that we can do, including those that may be beneficial to us and help us along our journey, or help me along my journey, because I was using me as an example earlier. So help me along my journey. But in reality, you're saying something needs to be undone that has been done. That's within our power to undo it. We may have the power to undo something. It's we have to now have a purpose and a plan, but it can be undone, the abuse, the effect that it had on the brain, and new files, new way of reframing, and as you put it, rethinking, as it were, can come into play. It's not a lost cause, is what you're saying.
Oh, certainly not. Absolutely. And undoing it is honestly only the first step. You want to build back the neural connections that will prevent this from happening again. You want, so this goes back to the process of unlearning uh, these kinds of toxic ways of thinking and what to do when you are in an abusive relationship of any kind. Um, has to do with understanding, how did I get here in the first place? So part of this will be reflective work, but without the toxic rumination. It's not a judgment. This is not a shame based practice. This is just simply, what happened? How was this person able to get into my life? And
Mhm.
just really taking a look at that. Because when you have identified, okay, that was the weak place, right? Because not everybody was raised in an abusive home, although there are that absolutely is some people's story, right? They didn't know, their normal was already
Yes.
chaotic.
Yes. Uh-huh.
But you'll see that there was always something where you can actually pinpoint, that was like my downfall, right? And so
Mhm.
I'm actually a survivor of narcissistic abuse myself. And for me, I knew that it was because I didn't have very firm boundaries. I assumed everybody thought about things the way that I did. And
Mhm.
so there really
Yeah.
weren't
Mhm.
super evil. The super evil people in the world were not people that I would run into.
Of course.
They
Of
weren't
course.
people that I
Mhm.
was going to become friends with, because I would
Mhm.
be able to identify them. And
Mhm.
so when I can identify that was a false belief, first of all, and then second of all, I wasn't actually managing my life in the most productive way because I didn't have these boundaries. I didn't have set criteria already for what it would mean for people to be able to connect with me.
Mhm.
I just assumed that there wasn't really any need for that. I never even thought about it. I never considered it. So when
Yeah.
I'm rebuilding my after I have recognized I'm doing toxic rumination and I want to rebuild different types of neural connections, I need to specifically now be consciously thinking about those weak places in particular,
Mhm.
and identifying what I can be doing to help build those areas stronger.
When it comes to building to be stronger, You're saying we have to undo first. We need to, as it were, rewire or begin to reconnect in a positive way for the future, letting go or purging what we, well, what we really don't want in our life. We may have thought we wanted it. We may have glimpses that we memories and go like, well, that was nice. But the overall package and pattern with that person was toxic.
Mm.
It was painful. There was no empathy and a number of other things. So how do you go about purging that and building after undoing?
So,
Any
so
tips? Any
mhm.
tips?
Yeah, like I said, it's really important to keep reinforcing your beliefs. And so, again, using that alarm system of 7 or 8 alarms to go off during the day, where you specifically remind yourself of those
Mhm.
weak areas that you are now in the process of building stronger. So, instead of continuously for example, if this is my situation, instead of continuously thinking and thinking and thinking toxically about how could I have let this person in? Why didn't I see the red flags? Why didn't I do something about it? That's toxic rumination. Now I'm going to recognize I do that often. I do toxic rumination often. I recognize it's unhealthy for me. Instead of saying those things to myself anymore, what I'm going to say to myself is, I'm learning from this experience and I will learn how to set
Awesome.
healthy boundaries so that
Yeah.
I will have strong and deep and real
Yeah.
connections with people,
Yeah.
and so I will remind myself I'm going to do this. That's one part of it. As you
Hmm.
continue on your healing journey, it's important that you start putting actions behind your beliefs. And so,
Okay.
what this would mean in this example, again, this is my example, is that
Okay.
when I meet new
Hmm.
people, I know that they don't have to be my friend at all, but they
Yep.
certainly don't have to be my friend
Yep.
right away. I
Yep.
don't need to tell them my whole life story. If they ask me a question that I'm uncomfortable answering, it's okay
Hmm.
for me to say I'm uncomfortable answering that question,
Yep.
or I don't feel like talking about that, or
Yep.
whatever. I owe that person nothing. And so recognizing I'm a people pleaser, or I feel uncomfortable if there's conflict. I don't want to confront people. If you can recognize where those shortcomings are, or where those things that are intimidating to you lie, then you can start practicing. For me, for example, I started to just practice giving the word no as an answer. That is an answer. It's a full answer. You don't
Yeah.
need to explain all
Nope.
of the
Sure
things.
don't. Nope.
You're a sovereign
Oh, by the way,
entity.
I wasn't saying nope to you, by the way. I was agreeing.
Mhm.
I'm really glad you said that. There are a number of people that think that that is not a good thing to do, and they have a lot of shame and guilt if they say the two-letter word no.
Mhm.
But it's very empowering to do so. I'm sorry, I just had to say that, and I wasn't saying no to you, but I just love hearing that when people mention that aspect of recovering and rebuilding their life is to be able to say no because well, with a narcissistic abusive relationship, toxic people or self-indulging people, self-absorbed, they can get us to say yes when we really need to say a no. And I'm glad you said that. I apologize. You were going to say something else before. It was another thought I was going to have, but go ahead. You were going to say.
Well, the if we don't understand the power of no, I have a video on my YouTube channel where I speak about this. If I should first say no, because
Yep.
then when I'm ready, my yes will have so much more meaning. Then I will have been
Absolutely.
able to
Yeah.
ask myself,
Yep.
is this something that I really want to do, or am I feeling pressure to do this?
Yep.
And that, because you have to understand that that's the type of thing that leads into like, well, you really should like this person. Oh, you should really date that person. You guys would be great together. So it's a
Oh my
slippery
goodness.
slope
Yep.
between
Yeah.
okay, yeah,
It's
I'll
true.
try
That's
that, or
true.
I'll do that,
Yeah.
which is great too. Try new things, but only when I'm fully capable of advocating for myself. I can say no as a full
Yeah.
sentence, and it
Yeah.
doesn't affect my mood, or it doesn't affect me because I'm worried about other people's perception of me by
Or
saying no.
their mood and reaction because you said no to
Yeah.
guilt trip you into it can go from a meal to, as you're saying, now you're marrying somebody because somebody else thinks you should say yes and you're a perfect match or go take
Mm.
this trip. it'll have a ripple effect. And many who've been in an abusive relationship, at least from my ears, I've heard them say that that's happened to them often. They're
Hmm.
bouncing around saying yes to stuff that they would have never said yes to before
Hmm.
they ever met that person, but they felt the guilt and the shame, or they didn't want to be yelled at. They didn't want to let them down. Would you say a people pleaser? So they saw themselves as a people pleaser. Well,
Hmm.
I'm going to ask a question. How long does it take to heal from narcissistic abuse?
Hmm. Yes, this is a super common question. I get asked it all the time. And
Very
the
much,
truth,
yeah.
yes. And the truth is there isn't a set amount of time. What
Right.
you were just saying earlier with which is that, before they know it's you're married to the person.
Yes, yeah, sure.
We need to understand that time is the currency through which we build our lives. And if we
Mhm,
aren't aware of how we're spending it, we will be building something that we will never see the fruit of, or that was completely harmful to us, right? Which is
mhm,
usually the case, well, always the case when you end up with a narcissist. And so you owe it, on that same line of thought, you owe it to yourself to invest your time in healing fully and completely, whatever it is that looks like for you. um, because that's an investment in your life, in your
mhm,
future. What you do now matters today, but it also will matter tomorrow, will matter 5 years from now. I i just want to give a quick example. I met a guy. I did a radio interview a few years ago, and the guy who was kind of in charge of getting me in and out of the rooms I needed to go into, he said to me, I before I had this job, I had worked at a different job where just a couple of weeks after I started working there, I had a new boss. I never knew what a narcissist was, but my life was miserable for 5 months. I found myself in counseling,
mm.
and finally my wife said to me,
Wow,
get a
wow.
different job.
Yep, yep.
And so he got a different job, started counseling, started us, because the wife had actually said, I think he's a narcissist. So he started seeing somebody who specialized
Oh,
in
okay.
recovery. And
Mhm.
and he said, it took me over a year and a half of
Wow,
therapy for those 5 months that I was just working with this guy. And my
wow.
point being, everybody is different. I say that story just as an example of, that's somebody who was working with somebody for several hours out of the day. Imagine what it would be like for somebody who lives with someone who's a narcissist, whether that's a parent or a spouse or a sibling or whatever. So, and especially if you've lived your whole life with that person. So the amount of time that it takes is different upon every person, because a lot of times when you're recovering from narcissistic abuse, you're actually going to find other things that come up that were unhealed as well. And like I said earlier, identifying like the space in your life that was actually
Mhm,
even allowing the narcissist to come in is part of this healing process. And so sometimes you'll find out like, hey, that wound that I had when I was 12, or whatever, is actually
mhm,
the root reason of why I accepted a narcissist into my life. And so when you can identify that, then you have to heal that wound as well, so that you can kind of work your way back to how this impacted you and why you ended up with a narcissist over that
mm.
old thing. But everybody is different, like I said, and some people are able to let go very quickly. They're able to, they have such resiliency that they
Yeah,
are able to
uh-huh, right.
let go
Mhm,
easier than other people. And I think that the key to that is the support system that you have around you. Whether or not you have strong
yeah,
people
right,
who are
right.
supportive of your recovery, who are with you so that you don't
Mhm,
feel like you're going through this whole process alone, and that kind of thing. So everybody is different. My long answer for the short answer is that,
mhm.
everybody is different. It's
Perfect
true.
answer, perfect answer. Actually,
Mhm.
a very perfect answer, because I've met people, I've met women who were married over 40 years, and they walked away from it and was like, didn't look back. And
Mm,
then you meet somebody after 3
amazing.
years or an hour, yeah, a year and a half, like you're saying, and it's like
Mm,
they're devastated. and they've gone 7 years since they've been with that person, and they're still
Yes.
devastated. And I thought of thinking of this lady that was on my show, and show that I did last year, and she was like, "Oh no!" Once I looked it up and I saw what I was dealing with, she was like, not going to happen to me again." And she was done. She's since remarried and
Good
doing
for
just fine.
her.
Yeah, I said the same thing because I said, "Oh, well, you're happy being single." She said, "Oh no, 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 I'm going to get married again. No, I have nothing against marriage, but I just don't like people like that." She just never knew. She was naive. A person can be naive. We do need to. I just want to highlight on that. We do need to maybe hone in on that for everybody, that it can happen. A person can. You have good intentions, and you meet this person who has bad intentions, and it doesn't mean that someone has to beat themselves up over it, right? If they started that relationship and then found out they were narcissistic, it doesn't mean they were damaged. If they were a good person, there may be things that they may need to now work on. I don't know. I'm pretty much throwing that out there to you to give your opinion and thoughts on it.
Well,
If a person is naive, they shouldn't beat themselves up and think that they're a horrible person. What do you
No,
say?
absolutely. No, absolutely, for sure. And again, this is there's actual scientific studies done about like shame-based
Okay.
therapy practices, and it's actually extremely damaging. And so you should never approach it that way, even with yourself. You know, you
Okay.
should, if you have children, then you could imagine, if this is your child, speak to yourself like you're your child,
Yeah.
because you
Good
know,
point. Good
there's
point.
yeah, so
Mhm.
we actually know that this will cause damage if you approach it
Yeah.
from a shame-based attitude. And the other thing is that, honestly, if you're open to just viewing it as an experience, yes, it's your experience. Yes, that's going to have a profound impact on you specifically,
Okay.
which is also part of the healing process, and we can come back to that in a minute. But if we just look at this as an experience, there's always something to be learned from an experience. And you know, a lot of times it seems like it's the worst it could possibly be, but that's just simply just not true, right? It's always one of those, it goes back to like, it's the worst it could possibly be. It's this very dichotomous way of thinking where, you know what, I'm glad I learned this lesson right now, as opposed to years down the road, or I'm learning
Correct.
this
Yeah.
lesson when I'm ready to learn it. That's
Yeah.
the other thing too, is like, well, I wish I would have known sooner. Yeah, but you probably wouldn't have done anything with that information. Then you would feel worse about yourself because now you knew the information and didn't act on
Yeah.
it. And there's
Yeah.
all kinds of other things that come up with it. So just take it as it is. And you can't, because we can't go back in time. We can't go back into the past to make a different choice. The new choice comes from right now. You are aware, and so now you're responsible for the information that you do know. How are you going to implement that right now and in the future? What is that going to look like for you specifically when it comes to your healing, when it comes to rebuilding your new life and all of that stuff? So so you should not, in fact, approach any type of thing from a shame-based attitude, because it actually does damage your brain. And we also know that you don't learn from that perspective, because it's like it gets stuck, it gets bottled up in the emotional part of it, so you never actually comprehend what it is that you went through or how to do something different.
A person can have toxic rumination that they will need to purge so that they can rebuild. That we can find ourselves in a situation in which we can't rebuild because we feel stuck. When we get to the point where we feel so stuck, we don't see that maybe we're healing. It can be a vicious cycle of feeling unsuccessful when maybe we're making progress. I don't know. Again, I repeat, I'm throwing this stuff out to you this time. Um, we talked about how long it takes to heal. That's always going to be common because we always want to know, if we get a cut, how long is it going to take for, the scab to come off, or we get the new skin. Getting the new skin is going to take time based upon what you said, and everybody heals. My scar may heal different than yours. My scab is going to come on differently than yours. So the same thing when it comes to recovering from narcissistic abuse. But since you're the professional here in the room, um, healing is a big thing. A lot of people want to be healed and be done with it and move
Mhm,
forward
mhm,
and get the pain to be gone, the discomfort to
mhm.
be gone, the anguish to be gone. Um, what do you say when it comes to that word heal or healing and how we should approach healing from narcissistic abuse?
Mhm. Yeah, well, and again, um, going back to like this dichotomous view
Mhm.
of like
Yeah,
what it means, a lot of people think I left the narcissist and now I'm done, right?
yeah,
I've
that's true. Yeah,
healed.
yeah. No, that's true.
and and it's just simply not true. And healing is also not this. Lots of people think
Yeah,
like, oh, I'm starting from, I don't
the
feel great
bottom. Yeah,
today.
yeah,
Yeah, but
right.
don't
Yeah.
worry, tomorrow I'm going to feel amazing and
Oh
it'll
yeah.
just keep getting
It'll
better
just
from
keep
there.
getting. Yeah, I'll stay there. Right. I'll never have a bad dream. I'll never wake up
Yeah,
crying. Yeah,
right.
right, right. Yeah.
And actually healing is a bunch of ups and downs. And the problem with not feeling your feelings is that you can't actually heal without feeling. You must feel
Okay.
to heal. You must do it.
I'm
And
sorry.
again,
I'm sorry. I have to do this. You have to repeat that. I know people right now that should hear this, what you just said. They
mhm,
try to not feel, but what did
mhm,
you just highlighted what to us, please? That
mhm. You must
yeah,
feel in order to
yeah.
heal. Actually, your brain, your mind and emotions should be working in harmony.
Okay.
That's how you were
Mhm.
created to work.
Yep.
And when you give your mind nothing, because I'm not going to feel anything, they're not working together. Your emotions are constantly screaming, hey, I want to be heard, I need
Yeah.
to be heard, I'm
Yeah.
trying to let you know there's a problem over here. And you're saying, nope, I'm ignoring.
Right.
So again,
Yeah.
and this goes back into you abusing yourself, right? And
Uh,
because it can be very uncomfortable to like, what's in there, I don't want to open up that, I don't know what's in there, and I'm gonna it's more comfortable for me to ignore it. But if I'm training for a big event like a marathon or something, and if I feel pain in my leg, the pain is not doing anything wrong by letting me know I'm in pain. That it's
yeah.
doing its job. It's letting me know,
Yeah.
hey, there's
Right.
pain here.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
you might be making things worse if you ignore me. And that's exactly what happens when it comes to our emotional health. We must feel in order to truly heal. If you think that you're not gonna think about it, feel anything, and
Not
then
cry,
just
not cry, not,
mhm,
I'm just not going to cry over that person. And
yeah,
actually the brain is kind of going like, let's just get this over with. Let's,
yes,
and then we'll be okay. And then, you know what? Something else popped up. Let's take care of that. As you said, right? Peaks and valleys.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that goes along with this is that as you're healing, you should uncover your true identity, which was
Oh,
often blocked out, squashed, or overshadowed by the narcissist. And so when you allow yourself to feel, you'll discover, oh, this is why I'm so passionate about that thing, or this is why this thing really upsets me. It's usually pointing you to your purpose. You're supposed to use
mhm,
that for something, but you
right.
will never find that out if you don't know who you are. You won't know what to do if you don't know who you are. And you won't know who you are if you keep ignoring those parts of you. I tell my
Yeah.
clients all the time, I can actually only meet you as deeply as you've met you. I I can't tell you what
Absolutely.
you like, think, feel, any kind
Yep.
of thing.
Nope.
If you can't tell me
Yeah.
what your interests, likes, dislikes, whatever passions are. And
You
so
you sound like me when I have to do interviews. So, I don't have to do that with you, but I have to go like, whoever you are is going to come out and I work with that. I
that's
can't go any
right.
deeper unless you,
Mhm.
then I'd have to become a coach and then do that with you. But anyhow, or a psychologist. But I think you've given the parameters of how a person can start to move forward. Because
Mhm,
initially we started talking about red flags and a number of other things in another segment
mhm,
that we did. But
mhm.
right now, this is essentially the body of making bite-sized steps toward toward progress. Is
That's right.
understanding what we're talking about right now,
Mhm,
and truly anyone that is watching this back is got to understand we are just giving you a pretty balanced overview of
mhm,
steps that can be made. But what really needs to happen, from my perspective, is that individuals need to become a part of I'm going to make up a name. They need to become a part of your stormtroopers. I'm sorry, I had to do that.
Oh, I love that. Oh
They
my
need to
goodness, that's a
become a
great
part of,
name.
well, you better use it because I just
I'm going to
made it.
use that.
It's my marketing background, and I coach a lot of people with their stuff, but it just popped into my head. I went like, hey,
I
you
love it.
need to make t-shirts at that. That's the new
I
merch line.
do. I love that.
So they're either going to be your angels, or they're going to be stormtroopers, and stormtroopers is the only one I could think of made sense. Essentially, what I'm saying is that I need anyone that listens to this, who watches this, to go to Angel's YouTube page. For NarcAbuse TV Network, who I represent, as well as the Rhythm Entertainment Productions, we're not putting these on for people to come and watch us. We don't have the answers. I find individuals qualified, just like Angel, so that you can connect with them. You need to connect with them. Matter of fact, you need to become their stormtrooper. I'm just going to keep saying it now. I just kind of like the way
I
it
love
sounds
it.
now. We may have to watch Star Wars tonight with my family, my daughters. But essentially, I want individuals to know that they do not need to feel stuck, trapped, that there is a process to start purging and making progress, and not be stuck in, as you described it, toxic rumination, because it can become someone's life to stay there, and they're hopping from every from every bad YouTube channel and bad this or that or meme, and they're stuck in that world, and they're stuck in anger, they're stuck in despair, resentment, disappointment, not recognizing that we all are wonderfully made, to be able to achieve what we need to achieve, in our given purpose and responsibility as being created here on this earth. So what I'm gonna lean toward now is, I know we had some talking points and points that we were highlighting. So I'm gonna say this to you, and then I've got something you have no idea I was gonna do, because I just made it up in my head. So here we go. I'm gonna ask you this. What should I do if I get stuck, or if I mess up when it comes to, well, essentially recovering from these early stages of narcissistic abuse? What if I mess up? What if I feel stuck? What if I start stalking the narcissist,
Yes.
or I have a long list that's running through my head right now, but I'm not going to say them all. Things that people will do because they're curious, or they are having this longing that maybe things will work out from this abuser, and mess up and go back, or get stuck and go like, well, I just don't see love in my future, and it's hard for me to just leave my bed.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Yes. So yeah, typically when people say that they mess up, they broke the no contact, whether that was
Yeah.
scrolling through Instagram or they called them or whatever, ends up happening. And and uh analyzing why you did that. What were you feeling before you called, before you scrolled? What were you
Good
feeling
point.
right before there?
Good
Because
point.
then if you can recognize, oh, that's how I was feeling, then you can put up a system in place that will keep you from doing it the next time. Maybe instead you recognize the feeling. Yep, I'm starting to feel like the last time I did, when I really wanted to call, or whatever the case may be. And so instead of calling the narcissist, I'm calling my best friend, because I've already discussed this with my support system, and this is what I'm going to do instead. Or I'm going to leave my phone inside my house. I'm going to go for a walk for 30 minutes. I'm setting up something that will prevent me from making the same mistake. Making a mistake is not a problem, because honestly, we're going to learn from that, and we're never going to be perfect. And that's an unachievable goal to have anyway. So having grace with yourself during this process, treat it, like I said, treat yourself like you would treat your own child. You would not speak to your child like, well, you're an idiot. How could you do that? You already knew the answer. You would never say that to your child. Why are you saying that to yourself? Or why do you treat yourself that way? So have grace with yourself. When it comes to getting stuck, again, the same situation where humans are extremely risk adverse. And so if we think about a negative thing, it's this big. But if we think about a positive thing, it's like this big. It's like, yeah, that should always happen, right? And we
Yes.
ignore
Right.
the fact that actually we had to do a lot of work to get to that positive thing. So they're not equal. When it comes to memory recall, we will recall the negative thing much
Mhm.
more extreme, because it comes along. This is part of survival instincts and things like that. So it'll come along with all of the emotions, not
Mhm.
just the memory. Oh yeah, I remember that sucked. Nope. You're going to feel it. You're going to, right.
Yeah.
You're very risk adverse. And so it can feel bigger than what it is my point here. So when you're
Mhm.
saying, I don't want to get out of bed, remember that your emotions can lie to you, and they make great servants, but they're terrible masters. You need
Mhm.
to learn how
Yeah.
to be in control of your emotions, and this is part of that process. It's even when you don't feel like getting out of bed anyway, and having something that you've committed to internally to get up to go do. Maybe
Yeah.
it's, I need to get up and go for a run, or I'm going to meet my personal trainer, or I'm meeting my best friend for whatever, or I'm taking my dog for a walk, or I'm having a
Mhm.
cup of coffee. It doesn't matter what the thing is. You make that internal commitment to you, because oftentimes when we're healing, one of the things that is going to need to get reset is to the ability to trust your gut instincts. And if you're constantly dreading everything that comes your way, and you constantly view yourself as a failure, or that things are never going to get better, or that this whole thing is like you're going to keep living the same day every single day, that you thought it would get better, but now it's not getting better. Remember that your emotions can lie to you. Number two is that ask yourself, am I viewing the whole picture? Because a lot of times my clients who are going through the court process with a narcissist, for example, will often think they're always winning, when it's not
Mhm.
true at
Yeah.
all. Actually,
Right.
they're winning. They've
Yeah.
had several wins, but it can just feel like they're winning,
Mhm.
because you're recalling, when you think about that person, you're recalling all of the years of abuse that you had
Yeah.
prior to that
Yeah.
instance. And so number two, you ask yourself, am I seeing the whole picture? Because honestly, if you take a step back, it's like, no, I'm only seeing
Yeah.
this what I view to be this
Yeah.
extreme
Yeah.
situation. And again, have grace with yourself. Recognize, why am I getting stuck? Why do I feel like I'm stuck? Is that an emotional thing? Is that a mental thing? Do
Mhm.
I feel like, a lot of clients of mine feel like, well, I should be further along. And again, it's like
Yeah.
recognizing when you're the one doing the hike up the mountain, whether you're at 10 feet or you're at 10,000 feet, it feels the same, because you're the one having to do all of the work, right?
Mhm.
But somebody on the outside is able to say, hey, you're actually like, you're 2/3 up this mountain,
You're
right?
doing good. Yeah, you're doing good. Yeah,
Yeah.
right,
And
right.
so
Because
having
they're not at ground zero anymore.
that's
You're
right.
not at the
That's right.
bottom. So if you took 10 steps up, you're not at the bottom anymore.
That's
Go ahead,
right.
please. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, you were saying.
No, that's exactly right. So having, again, that support system around you, people who can say like, remember when you used to do this and now you're not doing that
Oh yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
Remember how you used to say this and you're not saying that anymore. You used to look like this and now you look like
yeah.
this. Like
There you go. Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
having that true north viewpoint for you, right? Because right now, when you're recovering, your compass on all the things is off. Your emotions are off. Your mindset is off. The way that you view the future is off. So everything is off, and that's okay. It's all getting thrown in the laundry. It's getting washed and it's all tumbling all around. You're feeling all of the
Right.
things.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be like that forever, and
Mm,
honestly, when this is all
yeah.
done, you're going to have extreme trust in your own instincts. You're going to have a lot of experience that you will know how to implement into practical ways to connect with people, to not connect with people, to advocate for yourself, and to learn who you truly are, so that you can be
Mhm.
living the life you were created to live. And that's the
Yeah.
most important thing, is not wasting any more time living somebody else's nightmare.
Because it can become and has become the life of many to live that life of someone else's projected nightmare onto
Mhm.
them that they
Mhm.
are living within themselves. And for many reasons, an individual can feel they want to fix that person, they want to help that person,
Yep.
they think they can divert them into a course that's going to help them.
Mhm.
become closer
Mhm.
to the one who created gravity, and they don't want that.
That's right.
They
That's
want to go
right.
create havoc, and they want to. And sometimes
Yes.
an individual has to recognize there's nothing that they can do, and their work there is done,
Mhm.
and they need to now pack up their toys and go to a different sandbox,
Mhm.
or whatever the case may be. Or they may
Mhm.
find themselves, as the term is, discarded. They may find themselves
Mhm.
discarded. Either way, what you're saying is beneficial because now with the tips and strategies, they become skills that a
Mhm.
person can develop,
Yes.
to the point that now they have a foundation to work from when they begin a new romantic life, or if they or a new job or whatever it may be, or
Mhm.
if they choose to use their singleness to the full, they can find themselves in a position that they are just plain old fashioned. As
Mhm.
one of my daughters told me, I have a daughter that's 30 and I have one that's 28. And one of them
Mhm.
told me, he says, Dad, I'm just so happy right now. She said, I can't see anything different for me right
Ah,
now. And for me as a dad, that's a great gift for me
that's
to hear
amazing.
from my
Mhm.
daughters. My
Yeah.
son is doing fine as well, but my daughters to say that they don't feel they have to chase romance,
Yeah.
but they can be. You said it just a moment ago. You might want to hashtag it, and I'm probably gonna butcher it. I should have wrote it down. You said about making a commitment, an internal commitment. That's what you
Mhm.
said. Having an internal commitment. One of the greatest gifts that any parent could give to their child is to have internal commitment. I love the way you said that. I tell them to be committed to what they're trying to do into themselves, and
Mhm.
that's your standard, and don't lower
Mhm.
it.
That's right.
And it's amazing how many people have had that and then lost it or gave it up
Mhm.
for a narcissist or someone who's abusive. You've really been able to kind of put a rudder to all of this and kind of right the ship for many people that will hear this. But now I get to torture you because I have to do this. I thought of it while we were talking. I normally do this only on the IGTV lives, but I'm going to do this with you right now. Here we go. You ready?
I'm ready.
No, no, you're not. Don't even say
I'm,
that.
I have no idea what we're
She's
doing.
like, yeah, that's what you're supposed to say right there. That's exactly what you're supposed to say. I told my daughters, I said, if you meet a guy and he does what you see me do to people in interviews, I said, don't run, just 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 take it, and then run after that. So after we get done, we're going to run and be done with the show, what we're doing here together. But here we go. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Here we go. First one: if people had to describe, from your experience as a professional in dealing with this, in your words, if people had to describe what it's like from your perspective to being in a relationship with a narcissist, what 3 words come to mind from your experience in dealing with people, or even your own personal? What 3 words come to mind to describe, as succinct as possible, what it's like to be in a relationship? For those who have no idea and they're watching this going like, well, what are they talking about? What is it like in 3 words?
I would say unending internal hell.
Wow. Okay, I've never saw it. I never thought to use it, but that is pretty accurate. That's pretty good. That's
Yeah,
pretty. Yeah,
it's
that's
it's the
yeah.
you will never experience it's difficult to explain it
Yes,
if you've never been
yes,
in it. But
yes. That.
it's mhm.
Go ahead. Please, no, please go ahead.
But yeah, it really feels like you're trapped in hell and you can't get out.
Yeah, I ask you that because so many people lately that I've come in contact with are trying to wrap their brains around it. And you deal with people who've done this. You've experienced it. It's hard to describe it to someone where
Yeah.
they can turn on their empathy.
Mhm.
Because it's like, well, why don't you just, it's like they're just going to tell you a recipe. Why don't you just do this and this. And you're like,
Yeah,
you don't understand.
that's right.
It's like you don't understand. Now, second
Mhm.
second thought that I was going to
Okay.
ask you about, because this is just your opinion, your experience. I'm asking you this: when an individual is discarded, and feel free to throw a definition in for those who may just be finding out what narcissism and all this is. When a person is discarded, what 3 things would you recommend to them to start moving forward? If they've been discarded by a narcissist, what 3 things do they need to keep in mind? And feel free to, of course, give the definition of a discard for those who may not be familiar with that
Mhm.
term.
Mhm. Well, yes. So first of all, being discarded is one of the phases of what happens when you're with a narcissist. And this is basically where the narcissist gets rid of you, right? Kicks you out of the house, blocks you on social media. This is after the devaluation phase. So they've already called you all of the names. They've already stomped on everything that you hold, value to. They've already tried to ruin everything that you like, enjoy, cherish, all of that stuff, right? And so
Wow.
now the discard phase is, I never want to talk to you again, get out, all of that type of behavior. And so three things to tell somebody who's just been discarded. Number one, believe the narcissist and go no contact. Just go no contact, set up a plan to go no contact.
Okay.
Number two, it has nothing to do with you. There's nothing you could have said, done, whatever, to change the outcome. This is the cycle. The narcissist does it, and there's nothing you could have done different one way or another, said anything to prevent it from happening. And then I guess number three would be, evaluate, is this the way that you want to be treated?
Wow.
And make a change accordingly.
Yeah. And that last one, of evaluating, assessing, is this the way you want to be treated? That at least sets the foundation for where you're going to move forward.
Right.
As
right.
long as they have internal commitment, which you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And maybe they need to reach out to you and watch your YouTube channel and connect with you and become a stormtrooper.
Yes, be a stormtrooper.
I'm sorry.
I need to write that down.
If I say it one more time, that's it. It's going to be stuck in your head. No, you really should run with that. I'm really mean.
I love it.
I should see postings of Star Wars stuff on your page from here on out, telling people to join your stormtrooper club to fight against narcissism and narcissistic abuse. The last thing before we have to go, we have literally gone almost an hour, or pretty much close to it. So I do want to ask you this: with a number of people that you have spoken to, listened to, and dealt with, for your own personal experience in life, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being essentially you just don't care, and 10 being that you're deeply concerned, from your own personal experience in dealing with a number of people, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 I don't care, and 1 you're deeply concerned, what have you noticed about the growth of narcissistic abuse? It's something you don't need to really be concerned too much about and don't care because it's not taking over? Or are you a 10, Angel? I like that. You see, I stuck that in there.
I love that. I am a 10.
Just like my daughter. Just like my daughter's dad. I'll always be a 10. I'm like, whatever. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I am a 10 actually, because and I have a video coming out in a couple of weeks that actually discusses this, because it's not just the individual to individual, which is often, my clients are always individual to individual, meaning they were in a relationship, their mom, their dad, whatever. There's a person, an individual that was the narcissist towards them. But actually, narcissism isn't just growing in the amount of individuals in society. It's growing as a society, meaning we are having businesses, corporations using narcissistic abuse, gaslighting techniques. We have governments doing this, and it's becoming more and more common in organizational
situations,
settings. Yep.
Settings. Okay.
Exactly. And so the chances of you not running into narcissistic abuse are zero.
Correct. Oh,
yeah, like
zero.
they're like literally zero, unless you're never gonna work anywhere or go to
or
college or any kind of if you're gonna be in isolation.
Pizza delivery guy's gonna be
exactly. It's getting to that point.
No, I just had my neighbor a few weeks back. We were joking about it, and he went like, "I think what do you call the people that bring the food? I forgot now. I just went blank.
Uber?
Don't get old. No, not that.
DoorDash.
Thank you. Yes, he was going like, I I think he was a narcissist. I said, come on, man, you're at home. He's going like, no. I just told him to leave it on the porch because the way he was texting me when he was telling me he was on his
Oh,
way, I'm going
wow.
like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, because
Wow.
he went beyond what he
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
accustomed to. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's one thing to say,
Yep.
hey, I'm here, but he was like having a dialogue like you would find on social media, and he was being abusive. It was like,
Oh my
it's
goodness.
just
Wow.
leave the food. And so I can see what you're saying. I can see and agree with what you're saying. Because of that, this epidemic, or as we were joking around, pandemic of narcissism,
Pandemic.
is
Mm-hmm.
pandemic of narcissism.
It's the
It
real
me
pandemic, by the
it
way.
yeah, I'm gonna say, there you go. You see, that should be the first meeting of the stormtroopers.
There
It
you
should the
go.
title should be, we're gonna talk about the real
The real
pandemic.
pandemic.
And
That's
meet me in
right.
my Facebook group or on YouTube, and we're gonna
I
talk
love
about it.
it.
You should run with it. If you don't, I'll give you a year and then I'm gonna use it. I give you 12
Okay.
months, 12
I'm
months
going to
lead on
use
that.
it.
You
I'm
think
going to
I'm
use
joking?
it
I'm
for sure.
serious. I'm gonna give you 12 months. You're not the first person I've done that to. You're like, I give you 12 months. If you don't use it in 12 months, I'm gonna claim it back as mine.
Oh, I
But
love it.
once it came out of my mouth, it's yours. But what I was gonna mention to you is what you've done here is given the groundwork for us to get a better understanding. We're going to get an opportunity for those of you who will watch this back. You will more than likely see Angel publish it before we will. We may end up taking 9 months or so before we actually release it. I don't know. I have executive producers and they're my children. And so I just do what I'm told. But what I was going to say is this information will be out. You will see another one, God willing, that we'll be able to get together and do that. And when we put that one together, well, you just have to watch it. I'm not going to tell you. So let's leave curiosity in place because it's better for us to be curious humans than abused humans. So be
Mm.
careful with who you deal with. We were created to be curious and learn. So hopefully you're curious enough to watch this and learn from Angel. Angel, thank you for everything. I appreciate it greatly, and we'll get together soon. All right? Thank you.
Thank you so much for
All right.
having me on.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye now.